You're with Julian on the Brown Note and a review of Black Country New Road and Forever How Long, their latest album. Now, I'll get through the story of Black Country New Road as quick as I can. They came out with a debut album. Their second album, Ants From Up There, in 2022 is the first album I put a video online for, and it's also was the first album I gave a 10 out of 10 to for a new release album, something that has only been equalled by Black Country New Road, No Title. Both were my albums of their respective years. And at that very moment, they're very iconic vocalists that seem like Morrissey, almost tying everything together, and the focal point of all of their music quit music. Virtually the day that Ants From Up There was released, they're the biggest indie sensation on earth, with one of the most acclaimed albums of this decade, and their entire band is dead. Well, not dead, but they basically pulled a New Order Joy Division, which is when they lost their lead singer, who I last heard of was working in a cake shop for mental health reasons, just gave up on music. Very interesting lyricist and singer. And the band completely changed. They pulled a New Order Joy Division, which is they weren't going to play any of the music that they'd already released. They were just going to play new music going forward with the new band and the new style. So they even changed their style. And that came with the Live at Bush Hall album a couple of years ago, which was excellent. It was a really strong manoeuvre from them to do, which was, instead of having the weight of following up a superb album with a completely different sound and ethos, they did an interim album of all new material played live, which I thought was a really clever move. And some great tracks on there as well. Now they've come back with their studio album, which is effectively their fourth. There's no repetition in the tracks again. It's like so weird that a band that has only existed for like 4 or 5 years has gone through so much change, which is fascinating. And Forever How Long is that album. The opener, Besties, it's got this sort of harpsichord entrance, and then it blows out into a prog pop sort of explosion. It's quite a goofy song, like Up Song, and a lot of their instrumentation now it's always been a very acoustic band, even though it's been a very noisy band at times. It's a very acoustic group of people now with lots of different kinds of strings and keys and horns involved in their music. They're all multi-instrumentalists, and I love the fact that when I saw them live, they were drinking red wine on stage. It's a perfectly good song. It's not like one of the better ones. The opening 3 are probably not amongst my favourite on this album at all. The interesting thing with Live at Bush Hall is they replaced their vocalist with 4, 1 guy and 3 girls, particularly Georgia Ellery, who is the vocalist of her own band, Jockstrap, whose album is excellent. So she's like the lead. She was like the lead-ish vocal. Now they've dropped the guy vocal, which is odd because I thought when I saw them live, all of their vocals sounded better than they did on Live at Bush Hall, including his. But he's dropped away, and I think we're left with May Kershaw, maybe one of the others. But it's mainly Georgia Ellery, which is understandable, and she's certainly got the personality. She's like this Kate Bush diva. I bet she did a lot of school plays. Very striking as well to look at. Most of them are a really good-looking bunch of people. Not that that has anything to do with anything. The Big Spin, track 2, it's got this musical vibe throughout, and the instrumentation is full of detail on this album. Because they're all multi-instrumentalists, there's always a nook and cranny for another instrument to add colour to the tracks. And they sound like more of a band, yet in a different way. Like I said, the first 3 aren't my favourites. The track Socks, which is 6 minutes long, they're the heart of the album, which is 6-minute long multi-suite epics. And that's really the heart of the album. There's probably like 4 tracks that do it. And this is probably the least interesting, but I think I've got the next one is actually really good. Salem Sisters, got some amazing lyrics on this that really jut out. I mean, for this middle-class home counties bunch of toffs, quail thighs grilled on both sides. Really? Quail thighs grilled on both sides. There's a young man holding tongs as the party sings along to a song that I wrote to a fair wrote on a boat. That's the first real high point, I think. It's almost like Jack Brel vibe going on. It's the most compelling track so far, and I think most of the rest of the album is really compelling. Track 5, Two Horses, I think is the best song on the album. Again, it's got some great lyrics. Oh, I can see my destination on the line, and if the stars are aligned, not going to be a next time. I'll check him as he's sleeping. Can never trust a man who's drinking whiskey at the bar alone. How dare you? But his arms around your waist and your hair is blowing in the wind and it felt all right. And that picks up like this massive Arcade Fire disco ABBA stomp, which is fantastic. The most Arcade Fire they've ever sounded, which is ironic given that it doesn't sound like anything like Ants From Up There, which got accused of being Arcade Fire like. True epic, really, really like that one. Mary track 6 is it's acoustic guitar, less consequential than the previous two. I like this. She screams in the shower. She's lost all of her power. And some lovely recorder soloing at the end. Like the recorder comes out. If any band is going to be playing a recorder, it's these girls. And it's all like Happy Birthday, another quite compelling shorter track. It kind of reminded me of Baroque Bowie, so this hunky-dory era Bowie. I really felt this album had a lot in common with hunky-dory. Track 8 for the old country, back into the long-form epics, a very long intro, a mix of vocalists on a couple of these tracks. And it's got a very apoplectic finish. I wish they'd do that a bit more, because Snow Globes was my #1 track of the year, and that's got a famed midsection which is just absolute noise music, and I wish they'd done that more. They do it on this, the really welcome dissonant sound. I thought it was really good. Nancy Tries to Take the Night is another almost equal to Two Horses, I think, long form epic, and I've got some lyrics from that one. You run through the streets like the whore that you are. You hope pretty soon you'll be struck by a car, but the light of day tries to keep you afloat while there's pain in your stomach and a pain in your throat. That's another cracking track, actually. And from there, it's really the wind down. So we get a low-key title track called Forever How Long, and then Goodbye Don't Tell Me is another standout track. It's got a great chorus, which is instantly memorable. I've put down a few genres. So when I reviewed the Lost to Thanica album, I put down some genres because I couldn't quite work out. And here I've got Harry Potter house band, folk ABBA, indie music hall, recorder pop, Bowie Baroque, Home Counties Eurovision, Blyton Rock. Now that's my favourite. I think that's very inspired. Blyton Rock. So there's a British gangster movie from the 1950s called Brighton Rock, which is starring Richard Attenborough. It's a masterpiece, one of the best British gangster films of all time. Enid Blyton Rock. Anyway, so I really liked it. It's not all the way through as good. It's completely different to who they were from the Ants From Up Here era, Ants From Up There. But Forever How Long has so much detail and so much soaring moments. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's really interesting. They're not really like anyone else. And Georgia seems quite content to take over. Maybe not in the same compelling way as Isaac yet. She really does at times, at her best, remind me of the expressiveness of Kate Bush, which is as good a compliment as you can make. But there does seem to be a lot of... They went to very posh schools and are standing next to a piano, which they could broaden out from. But I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Forever How Long.